Fakhar Zaman had a dream. And it's not unusual for a cricketer to project the night before a game. Matt Hayden sitting on the pitch trying to visualize where he's going to hit his ball the next day. This is a professional technique suggested by a sports psychologist. But that is not exactly what Pakistan's opener was doing. If you hear the story, it sounds more like he had an actual dream, and in it, he was playing in the Champions Trophy final against India. And he was dismissed only for the umpires to check it, in the days when they actually still had to do that, and for the decision to be reversed. Cricketers have all sorts of dreams the night before games. The mind wanders. Many players struggle to sleep knowing that there is a game coming up the next day. And of course, we only remember the things that come true. But even so, the next day, Fakhar Zaman's dream did come true, and so did Pakistan's. Do you want AMAs to connect on live calls with me or engage with our dynamic Discord community? Maybe you want ad-free content, early podcast episodes, or to stay informed through my emailer. Well, if you support us on Patreon, you get all of that plus a little bit of behind the scenes, how the sausage is made stuff. Our deepest thanks go to everyone who has supported us on Patreon so far, but the more people who do means the more content we can make. Pakistan turned up on time. All their players remembered to wear green, and that's all the positive covered. I wrote that after I watched one of the worst performances ever. Pakistan's last Champions Trophy started with an absolute nightmare. They entered with a flawed theory that didn't make sense, even when it kind of worked. They dropped routine catches, bowled absolute garbage, fumbled straightforward fielding chances, and made desperate, nonsensical tactical adjustments on the fly. Their supposedly fearsome fast bowler was just ineffective. Their most informed bowler limped off with cramps on a cold, wet, rain-interrupted day, and they shattered the confidence of their usually economical spinner by making him bowl at the death in the wet. Their team selections defied cricketing logic. Two key players were absent due to corruption. Their running between the wickets was absolutely dreadful, and the only thing consistent about their batting was how slow both their running and scoring was. Any attacking shot they attempted was reckless and usually ill-advised, and the highlights of the match were either lucky wickets or the moment when the ball simply went missing and there was a pause in play. It was one of the worst displays I've ever had the displeasure of sitting through. Had Pakistan's players been replaced by cardboard cutouts, the results would have been more or less exactly the same. And of course, this was the first game of the 2017 Champions Trophy, a tournament that Pakistan won. Their second match was against South Africa. And again, it rained, but this time not on Pakistan. An all-star South African lineup of QDK, Amla, Faf, ABDV, and Miller stumbled to 219, finding it impossible to score a run off Imam Wasim, and Hassan Ali ripped out their middle order. When Pakistan batted, Morne Morkel caused, more issues. But no one else did. And when the rain came, Pakistan were well above the DLS pass score. They won easily, but probably would have even if it hadn't rained. In the next match, they went up against Sri Lanka. Hassan Ali starred again. He was at his best in the middle overs. Pakistan have seamers doing well in the middle. It's usually when they're at their absolute best. And using Hassan Ali like a weapon certainly was a part of that. Then Fakhar Zaman came in, and he slapped the ball everywhere, almost ending the game pretty quickly. Not bad for a bloke in his second ODI. But Pakistan still tried to give it back before Sarfraz Ahmed had to partner with Muhammad Amir to get them over the line. And that's all they needed. Two of those wins were enough to be in the semifinals. It's a weird tournament. The semi was one of the more hilarious matches I've ever covered. England had to bat on a slow wicket, and because of that, some English people complained that the ICC had fixed the pitch to make it slower. The truth was that the wicket had been overused and was in no fit state for an ICC semi-final. But England were 52 for 1 after 10, and they were doing okay. However, as the balls got older, Pakistan used all of their three spinners, and England just got stuck. At the halfway point, they were 118 for 2. A couple of overs later, Root was out to shut up, and then Hassan Ali did his thing again with Owen Morgan to basically end England's chance of putting on a good total. The spinners kept them quiet, but it was the quicks who took the wickets. Then, on a wicket that it was supposedly really hard to score on, Fakhar Zaman peeled off a runner ball 57 while Azhar Ali and Babar Azam anchored around it. They seemed to have no issue with the spin duo of Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid, but they also crushed Mark Wood, Liam Livingston and Ben Stokes. There wasn't really a moment in the chase when Pakistan weren't in complete control. They won with 8 wickets in hand and 12.5 overs left. And remember, this was the England who were in the middle of changing ODI cricket forever. And yes, it was still a little rough at that point, but they were a legit team, and yet it was Pakistan who outbowled and outhit them. In a tournament that was once a knockout, and is still pretty close to it. Pakistan had a bye in the first game and had still made it to the final. But here they had to go up against a team from the first round who didn't have scars of losing tournaments at this point and who had a fairly repeatable formula of knocking the ball around at the top until they were 150 for one and then like doubling it. India at that stage were leaving runs on the table for consistency, and it had stung them once earlier in the tournament when Sri Lanka had chased down their total. But more importantly for the ICC, they had an India versus Pakistan final, and Fakhar Zaman was at the crease. Not in a dream, but like real life. And he faced a pre-legend version of Jasprit Bumrah, who angled one across him and took the edge behind. And then, just as was prophesied, the umpires took a second look. And Fakhar's dream was a reality, as the foot was just over the line. He celebrated by hitting a boundary the next ball. In total, over went for 12. He doesn't often go for that much at the death in T20 games. Then Pakistan played sensible professional cricket. And it was India who was rattled. They bowled a lot of wides, and Pakistan batted like India usually did, cool and within themselves. India delivered 6 wides and a no ball in the first 8 overs. Pakistan were 103 without loss after 19. At that stage, Fakhar Zaman had 42 from 56, and Hardik Pandya's last over had just gone for 3 runs. In the following 14 overs, they added another 97 runs for the loss of Azhar Ali, while Fakhar scores 72 from 49. Now think about it this way. Had Shahjeel Khan been available, Fakhar might not have actually even been in the squad. And even then, he wasn't in the team for the first game. Now in his 4th ODI, he has 100 in an ICC final. Pakistan got stuck a little bit before one of the most polarizing cricketers, Mohammad Hafiz, comes in and smashes 57 from 37 balls. Hafiz had a career strike rate of 76 in 248 matches. This was the only time he scored 50 runs at a strike rate of more than 140. Actually, this was his quickest innings ever, because it was also his fastest ever knock when passing 10. Pakistan fans call this Hafiz 3.0. But this was really the peak of all of that. A singular explosion of which he never touched again in ODI cricket. First ball, 4. Fourth ball, 4. 7th ball, 4. 15th ball, 4. 18th ball, 6. And if anyone was having a dream at this stage, it had to have been Mohammad Hafiz, because he could scarcely believe himself he was scoring this quickly. In fact, maybe this is the dream, because if Mohammad Hafiz ever batted like this before, it was surely when he was tucked under a blanket. At one stage, he was actually bowled, or the ball hit the stumps. The bail kind of coughed up a little bit, and the ball went flying in another direction, but the spigots fell into place and he was still not out. Even the bails are supporting Pakistan. India was so confused by this once-in-a-lifetime knock that they didn't even bowl out Bumrah, and they had Kedar Yadav bowling his underarm nude nuts at the death. Bumrah and Ashwin went at more than 7 runs per over. Jadeja went at more than 8. And then Muhammad Amir was bowling to Rohit Sharma, and behind him are 338 runs. Rohit could, on the best of days, score 200 of them on his own. Instead, he and the rest of India's top 3, the most automatic we have ever seen in cricket history, are gone. From the start of 2013 until the end of 2019, these guys averaged 53 runs per wicket as a group, 10 more than the next highest. So they were starting games with India 159 for 3, when the next best was 129. This time, it was 33 for 3. And basically game over. There were incredible reviews and Shadab Khan's wicket of Yuvraj Singh, plus Hardik Pandya making a one-man play. But the game was over. So much so that Hassan Ali had been their saviour in this tournament. And by the time he got his first wicket, the match was done. Somehow, the entire narrative had flipped in this teeny tiny tournament. The nightmare side of the first game had become the dream team in the space of 5 matches. Or maybe none of this is real, and we're all just non-player character in Fakhar Zaman's Champions Trophy fever dream. South Africa did not choke. In 1906, South Africa needed 284 to win. They had only passed 100 in half their test innings at that point. At 105 for 6, it seemed impossible. They fought back but lost another flurry, leaving 45 to win with 1 wicket in hand. At the crease was Dave Norse, who was a capable batter, and he was joined by Percy Sherwell, the only debutant captain keeper and number 11 in Test cricket history. And these two were doing it. A huge crowd in South Africa cheered on every single run. With 8 left, Sherwell edged between slips for 4. Straight after, Norse ran a 3. England bowled 3 dots. All they needed was 1 wicket to tie. Instead, a leg side full toss, boundary, game over. This was Test cricket's first 1-wicket win, and their last partnership was a record for almost 100 years. But it was also something else. This was the first Test match that South Africa had ever won. Buy my book on Amazon, Overthrowing Cricket's Empire.